Today, we're talking about one of the greatest gifts we can give our children, a deep, confident assurance that God exists and that Jesus is who He claims to be, the Son of God. Richard Simmons shares 4 powerful arguments for why Jesus stands out in all of history and why understanding these truths can give our kids a strong foundation in their own faith journey. So let's jump in.
One of the greatest gifts I believe we can give our kids is this assurance that God exists and there are good reasons for His existence. And if He does exist, what is His name? Who is He? Because there are thousands of religions out in the world, but if there is a God, who is He? Now, I always tell people that if anybody on a search for spiritual truth should always start with Jesus, because He's the only credible human being that's come along and claimed to be God. And so I think it's important to look at that issue and ask the question, is Jesus the Son of God? Is He God? And if He is, why do you believe that? And I think our children really need to know this. Now, there are 4 primary arguments to make for Christ being the Son of God. The first is the great impact He's had on history. The great historian H.G. Wells, who was not a religious man, not a Christian, he says that Jesus is the most dominant figure in all of human history. Now think about that. Think about that when you compare Him to the Greek philosophers. Socrates taught and wrote for 40 years. Probably the greatest Greek philosopher of all, Plato, he taught and wrote for 50 years. And then his contemporary, Aristotle, wrote for 40 and spoke for 40 years as well. And then Jesus comes along, and He never wrote anything, and He taught for 3 years. He was a public figure for only 3 years, and yet He is the most dominant figure in all of human history. How can that be? Furthermore, all of time revolves around His birth, BC and AD. So that's significant. Second, of course, is the evidence for the resurrection. Now, it would take me an hour to share with you all that I would have to say about this, but let me make one quick point here. Several years ago, I was doing some research on the resurrection, and I kept encountering men who had tried to go out and disprove it. They believed if they could disprove the resurrection, then Jesus and Christianity would die. In fact, the Apostle Paul even said that. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then we're a bunch of fools to believe this. What's interesting, these 6 men, from Lee Strobel to Josh McDowell to J.D. Anderson, Sir William Ramsay, Gilbert West, and Frank Morrison, they studied for years and they couldn't make a dent in the Christian faith. But this is why I wanted to share this. All 6 of them became Christians. Think about what happened. All 6 of them were forced to look at the evidence, and the evidence for the resurrection is so compelling, they ended up surrendering and becoming believers. Now, the third argument that's very, very powerful is the fulfillment of the Messianic prophecies. There are over 60 Messianic prophecies, and these are prophecies that you read about in the Old Testament, and they point to the Messiah that the Jewish people are waiting for. The problem is Jesus fulfills every single one of those prophecies. And I know scores of Jewish people who have become Christians when they've looked at their own prophecies and see how Christ, in fact, has fulfilled them all. The final argument that I would make is maybe my favorite. That here's Jesus, the most dominant person in all of human history, and He doesn't impact the world through military power. He doesn't impact the world with great wealth or this super education, nor did He have a magnetic personality. The world has been transformed by Christ through a life of humility, the power of a humble life. I mean, He lived in the most desolate place in the Roman Empire, a place called Galilee. And he never traveled to the great cities. He never met any of the most powerful people. He taught for 3 years and is the most dominant figure in all of human history. I love the words of Napoleon, which he uttered right before he died. He says, "I die before my time, and my body shall be given back to the earth and devoured by worms." What an abysmal gulf between my deep miseries and the eternal kingdom of Christ. I marvel that whereas the ambitious dreams of myself and of Alexander and of Caesar should have vanished into thin air, and a Judean peasant, Jesus, should be able to stretch his hands across the centuries and control the destinies of men and nations. How do you explain it other than the fact that he was the Son of God? And so parents, I think it is so important that your children know the evidence for Jesus being the Son of God, because I think it's the foundation of our faith. Faith needs a strong foundation, and the stronger the foundation, the stronger our faith will be.
Faith needs a strong foundation, and helping our kids understand why Jesus is the Son of God is central to building that foundation. The historical impact of Jesus, the evidence for the resurrection, the fulfillment of prophecies, and the unmatched power of a life lived in humility all point to something extraordinary. Thanks for joining me today, and may God bless you and your incredible life-giving journey of guiding your kids to know, love, and follow Jesus closely. Now, we hope this content inspired you to pursue deeper conversations with your children. And if it did, then please click the like button and share your comments below. In the description, we have included several helpful links to help you on your own unique parenting journey. Make sure to click the notification bell as well so you can continue to see content like this from the Focus on the Family Parenting YouTube channel. God bless you and your family as you pursue thriving in Christ.